Hi, I'm Suneera and I'm a mom of two, a daughter of an immigrant, and an unlikely entrepreneur who went from scaling an idea to $1 billion business. Yes, $1 billion business. Along the way, I learned that less than 2% of female founders ever hit 1 million in revenue, and I became obsessed on a mission to change that. I believe that there is so much gatekeeping in business knowledge, and that we as female entrepreneurs should be learning from other female founders and leaders who have broken the statistics. Since I never went to CEO school, I've had to learn it all the hard way, but you shouldn't have to, because we believe that you deserve to have it all. And honestly, nothing bad happens when women make more money. Grab a seat because class is officially in session. Welcome to CEO School. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the CEO School podcast. I'm your host, Suneera, and we are at Arlen's conference, Your First Million Live. You know I love integrating work and life and doing all the stuff together. So I'm actually going to be speaking tomorrow on stage to, I think it's like 2,500 people Arlen has brought together. It is so epic. It's so insane. And we're so proud of her. Like, honestly, doing something like this is so much work, but she's so ambitious. And she's like, nope, we're going to do it. We're going to rent out the entire Peacock Theater. And let me just tell you, it is flawless, it is epic, and it has been so fun already. But what I decided to do is, of course, bring all of you along. And so we are back here in an empty ballroom setting up podcast shop. And I have the most incredible guests lined up for not just this week's episode, but for the next couple of weeks for all of you. And without further ado, I have our first guest here, Lizzy Mathis, who is literally the coolest mom ever and a business owner and all the things. We've been chatting for like the last 30 minutes and I feel like we're fast friends. So quick, but I will let Lizzy share a little bit about herself and her background, but you will know exactly who she is.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. It's really cool meeting you in person. I'm excited to be here with you at this event. But yeah, so I'm Lizzy Mathis. I have a podcast and a website called The Cool Mom Co. I also have a TV show that I'm executive producer, co-creator, and host of called Honest Renovations, and it's a renovation show on Roku. So that's a little bit about me.
It's super great. So Honest Renovation, you and Jessica Alba are going in and just creating the most beautiful spaces for families and all of the stuff. It's so fun to watch. So definitely check out Honest Renovation on Roku. We'll be linking everything into the show notes. But how did you get started in renovation?
It's so crazy.
What's the backstory there?
You know, this is one of those things where you just kind of have to follow where the world takes you. Okay. And that's exactly right. I've always been in love with design and traveling and food and cultures. I was a model for a very long time. And so I was able to travel the world at a very young age, which influences you a lot more than you think, but it does. It influenced me in terms of food and being able to experience other people's world and being outside of myself, but also incorporating that a lot into my design, right? At home and the homes that like I would create for my family eventually, or just for myself. And so during COVID, Jess and I were fast friends as well. Our kids, we were introduced actually as mom friends because our kids were really good friends when they were in preschool. So random. And during COVID, we were like, what can we do together that's going to be fun and create content and just have a good time? So we created like a really scrappy production house and we started to shoot a lot of content together. And the content was everything. We shot, beauty, of course, with Honest. We shot home things. We shot design. We shot DIYs. I mean, it was wild. But one of the things we really loved doing together, and we felt like we had a really good yin and yang, was design for, the different spaces that we had. And we started on a project, what ended up being a 2-year project for her parents' house. And it took forever. So we did that and we were like, we should create some sort of show out of this and kind of give back and kind of see what we can do and, help other families who are going through similar transitions and in their lives with like multiple kids or just kids that are out leaving the house or multi-generational families. And so that's exactly what we did. And now it's on Roku and we're in our second season. And so it's very exciting.
That is so fun. And second season is so, that's such good news. That means that it was not only all the hard work that you put in, it was well received.
Yeah.
And that you got another opportunity to continue to, do what you love. This is so exciting.
We launched actually #1 on Roku.
Really?
Yeah. First airing out first weekend, we launched #1.
What's the business? I have so many questions here, but going back to first being mom friends, because I think that some of the best relationships, girlfriends, the best relationships in my life have been with other mothers.
Really?
Yes. Other mothers that are also in business, that are kind of on the same speed as me, of we have work in common or a passion in common, and we're mothers. It is just a next level connection.
That's the key though, Suneera, because when you have someone who you can talk to on multiple levels of your life, that's when you're really, I think, getting the most beneficial from that relationship, right? Because when you can talk to someone about diaper blowouts or kids having tantrums or just the different phases of motherhood, as well as, girl, can you help me out with this, or talk to me about my business this, or do you think I should pivot here or pivot there, or who do you have a contact who can help me figure out this? It's just it feels more fulfilling. It feels more like a whole. It's a whole part of you.
It is, and it's, you feel seen and heard. I come from a place, and I know every industry, it's so male dominated, and I feel like I'm always in the boys club. I'm always in the boys club, and the pandemic definitely shifted a lot of things. It brought family life to the forefront, where just business is also just evolving and changing because of the pandemic in a really good way, I believe. But it still is just, it's a man's world. And there's so much stuff as women that we carry, the emotional stress of a family, our second shift as mothers, and especially also when we're ambitious and we're career driven and all the things, it's so hard to find that tribe.
It is.
And so I feel super grateful when those are the best friendships that I have in my life, are women that I can connect with as a mom and a businesswoman.
Well, see, that's why I created Cool Mom Co. though too.
Yeah.
Because I felt like when I was becoming a new mom, I felt so isolated. I felt like there were so many transitions happening at the exact same time for me. It was a transition in my business where I didn't feel fulfilled anymore with what I was doing. I felt like modeling and acting was there, but it just wasn't who I wanted to be. It wasn't what I wanted to leave on this earth, right? It wasn't the stamp that I wanted to just say, this is it. This is the finale, right? While having a new baby. And that was hard, having that double transition. So for me, there was nothing out there really that celebrated both. Celebrated this idea that I did want to be this independent woman, this woman who was used to being making her own decisions, making her own money, doing her own things, right? And having ambition, growth, still be a part of a big part of who I was, but then also being a mother. And that was very important to me too. And how was I supposed to live in both of these worlds at the same time? And there was nothing out there that celebrated that. You either celebrated purely being a mother and you were all in on motherhood, or you celebrated being a businesswoman and having all of this independence and making all these boss decisions, right? But there was nothing that celebrated both. And so for me, that's where the Cool Mom Co. came from.
I love this so much. And it's actually, all of our audience is absolutely loving this, because we have this conversation all the time. I felt in my entire career, so my first baby was my business, right? So when I started my first baby, and people used to say Suneera, you take things too personal. It's just business.
Yeah.
I'm it's the most personal thing that I do. It's the most personal thing that I do. And so it was my first baby. I poured my heart into, I raised this child.
Yeah, you did.
And it was a lot of work. And then I also wanted to be a mother in my family life, in my home life. And then I got pregnant with our first, and all of the journey of motherhood, but also then fundraising while pregnant. There were so many, it's just this complete juxtaposition of business
girl,
and life.
I got so many questions for you. You know that, dude. I cannot wait till you come on the Cool Mom Co. podcast.
We're going to do it. We're going to come back, and I'm going to be on the show.
Yes.
But one of the things that was really frustrating to me was the advice that we give to women. And I was given this advice all the time. You can have it all, just not all at once. You can have it all, just not all at once. I'm like, what? Bitch, I want to fucking have it all right now.
So wait a minute. So what about that though irritates you?
Okay, because I deserve to have it all.
All at once.
I deserve to have it all. It's whatever all looks like for me. And I think the definition of all can be different for everyone. And for me, it was really about my work life and my family life. Everything else was a no. So I didn't have time to go sit on other boards or go do other community stuff, or if there's shiny new objects and projects, like it had to be a no. But what my all looked like is it's my choice to choose my all. And I do believe that we have to change the narrative of that conversation, because it's setting the wrong example for my girls. Like it's setting the wrong example. She deserves, my kids, I hope and pray they get to have whatever all looks like for them.
Yeah.
Right. And we have to shift that mentality. So I felt like I was constantly fighting this, like both the boys club, having it. And so I feel you. And it's so
But
needed.
also you also are put to a different standard because you are a woman in business as opposed to a man in business.
Yes, 100%.
And so because of that, no one's asking a man what their all looks like. No one's saying you can't have it all. So when you say that to a woman and a mother especially, that you can't have it all, I could see how you could be, offended by that, feel like up in arms about that. And especially not what you want to raise with your girls. The only thing I will have to say is that, yes, having it all can be different for every person, but you have to be very specific on what that all is. Because all feels like, when we think about it in terms of like everyone, we think, okay, it's about having the perfect marriage, the perfect kids, the perfect family, the perfect amount of time, plus your self-love time for just you. Then you being friends to other people or other women, whatever, your girlfriend time. It's like being the perfect sister, daughter, whatever it is, all the different buckets you have to fill throughout the day. And I think for me, there's no way, and I make sure that my whole family, I make sure everyone knows, there's no way I can be everything to everyone all of the time. There's no way. That does not exist in my world. There are certain moments in time that require me to be more in a certain bucket than other times. And so that, I think, coming to that realization was very difficult for me as a mother. You know what I mean? It's it's those moments.
It's really about choosing your bucket. So I literally call it my 3-bucket principle. It is literally a formula of what all looks like. But you use the word perfect. And that is what we have to drop as women.
Agreed.
So all does not have to be at Instagram perfection, right? And I think we're in this constant state of what perfection needs to be. And we hold ourselves to that standard as women because of just how we are built psychologically.
Well, no, also how social media like literally sends it to us. This is when you open up your phone, think about it. How many times a day does the average person look at their phone?
100,000. I don't know.
I mean, it has to be 100 times a day, right? Or something like that. Every time you're looking at your phone, you see some image of perfection or some image of aspirational or some image that's a little bit what you don't have or what you aren't yet or what blah, blah, right? Or in your mind, that's what you're thinking. So how is it that you're not going to automatically or intuitively think that you're not supposed to be doing something else? I think that's what we have to change.
We have to. And that word perfection, that perfect has to drop. And also exactly what you said is deciding what that all looks like. And I call it my buckets. And the pressure that we put on ourselves of being perfect every day to all the things all at once, that has to shift as well. And so I call it my 3-bucket formula. It's like, here's the 3 things that I'm focused on, and it changes. Like my buckets are allowed to change. So my family's not going to change, and my work currently and the ambition that I have is not probably going away.
Right.
So I've got these 2 major buckets in my life. So what is this 3rd bucket that I can fill, but there's not much more I can do beyond the 3 buckets, like more than the 3 buckets. But every week taking that assessment to say, okay, I'm filling each of those buckets. It doesn't have to all be equal every single day. It could be, it could look different weekly. It could look different over the course of several weeks as well. But it's being conscious to say, here's where I'm dedicating my time, and also being comfortable with boundaries and the word no. It's so hard.
That's a hard one.
And saying no to everything else, because that's what almost impedes when you don't have the definition of what all looks like.
You know, it's interesting. On the podcast, I talked to obviously so many women and mothers.
So many incredible women, by the way. You have to go listen to the Cool Mom podcast. I cannot wait to be on. But you've had the most incredible roster of women that have shown up.
They really are. They're awesome. And a lot of them are my friends, which I'm very thankful for, because it becomes now my community that I'm able to tap into. And most of the conversations I have are conversations that I've had with these women privately. privately. And so now we're having open discussions where everyone can hear. But it's interesting because a lot of them say very much the similar boundaries thing, the buckets thing. But recently, someone said to me, and this was very powerful, they said, live in like decades. Don't live in like small achievements, like live in the bigger ones. So live in like what you want to accomplish over a year or over 10 years or 5 years even, right? Because it gives you more room. It doesn't make you feel as much pressure to get it done within that small window of time. It gives you more time to kind of like, okay, I can, what have I accomplished the last 10 years? Is this something where I wanted to accomplish? Did I do the business? Did the business hit this milestone? Family, was I there during the important moments for the last 10 years of my child? It's like live in the 10-year buckets instead of the smaller ones, because it gives you a little bit more room to not feel so pressured to achieve in such a small amount of time.
You know, I really need to take that advice, because I feel like there was a purpose that you were here today on this chair and we're chatting, because it is so difficult with like that pressure is there, right? Like that pressure is there from outside. And then just as a woman, just intrinsically, right? Like we put the pressure on ourselves as well. So there's everything else. We have that pressure. It's such a unique perspective. It's such a unique perspective. And it's so important to say like, there isn't it like who sets the deadline? Who's setting the deadline? Why do we have to set that deadline for tomorrow? It is such a beautiful way to view it. I love that. I'm taking that back.
Well, it's interesting because I read something about you when you said something to the effect of, how did it, like when the business hit 1 billion, what was past that? Now my marker that someone else set on me was 2 billion. And did I want that? So it is these, it's these markers that society or people put on us and that we put on ourselves that we don't have to hit in those time frames.
I call it shitting all over ourselves. So like we're like, we should and we should and we should, like, let's stop shitting all over ourselves.
Oh my God. I thought you said shitting. I thought shitting. I like that.
Stop shitting all over yourself. It was actually one of my executive coaches who shared that with me. She's like, Suneera, stop shitting all over yourself.
Oh my God, I
was
love
like,
that.
oh my God, Laura, I'm obsessed with that.
Look,
I need to stop.
That's what we need to do for our kids.
Yeah,
right. That's something I think is important to kind of instill in our children. Don't should all over yourself.
I know, and all over them too. Poor babies. So let's transition into motherhood.
Yeah,
and just tell me about this inspiration. Like you talked about the Cool Mom podcast. How are you juggling all of the things in your crazy busy family life as well?
I mean, I think the perfect word for it is juggle, though. I don't believe in balance, as I mentioned. It's just not a word that sits comfortably with me, just because I don't believe that there is this perfect world where everyone will get the exact same amount of me at all times. And my husband always says this. My husband's like, Lizzy, give to me what you give to the world every day. And it makes me feel like shit, but I take it because it's a reminder. It's like a grounding reminder of how much I give to other people, make sure that I give that also to him and my family. But listen, it's always, it's good advice, right? Yeah. I think it's, he's good at keeping both of my feet on the floor. He's good at making sure that the buckets are filled properly. Right. But I think that for us, I think we have to remember that grace is super important, right? I think now, especially, we are pulled in different directions than our parents were. We're pulled in different directions than what we even knew we had the capability to do at a young age. And I think now it's just about grace. It's about allowing yourself, right, to have those moments to yourself, to have those moments where I can take a break and a breather and say, okay, I need this moment right now because I'm about to go crazy, or I'm about to go crazy on somebody. So let me take this moment for myself. It's about having those moments also where I'm there for my kids. Like I try and shut down at probably about like 5:30 every evening so I can make sure that the next 2 hours before they go to bed are their homework, dinner, that time, unless I'm going to an event or something like that and it's you can't do anything about that. But those moments are very important to me. So I try to keep boundaries, like you said, at the forefront because it's the only way I can move through my day effectively.
That's literally my routine as well. Like I do not compromise like the 2 meals of the day, which is breakfast and dinner for us as a family. And we really do. It's so chaotic. It is literally a true shit show in my house every morning, getting the girls to school. And I do feel like I finally am in a place of, we were talking about this earlier, like I finally like have found myself again. And my little one turned 5 this year.
See, that's wild to me though. See,
yes, 5.
5 years to find yourself. And how great is it for people to hear that though? That you, of all people, you, very successful, put together, doing your thing, ambitious, loving mom, right? It still took you 5 years to get back to what you felt like was yourself.
I'm telling you, like I'm just right now feeling at my prime, like back again. And it's been hard. Like it is I think the pressures of work have been there. And I think at the level of where I was playing in the big leagues, and it's hard. And it is hard to constantly feel like I'm fighting for my role. I'm fighting for credibility. I'm fighting to like stay at the top. Like when you're there, like it is not easy from like in the business. And that was a lot of pressure. The amount of employees we had. I didn't go to CEO school. This is like, so the pressures I put on myself, like every day I showed up for a job that was like bigger than the one I had yesterday. I was like, there wasn't a single week that I have not ever hired somebody, by the way.
Wow.
That is how much growth it took for 10 years.
Wow.
Not a single week that I wasn't selling to somebody, interviewing somebody, and every aspect. So you have to give yourself completely to that. That's a lot of sacrifice, mentally especially. And with that, the thing that I was giving all as best as I could to my family, being a new mom, then, getting pregnant with Mila, and it was, we were pregnant super easy, and we had an amazing like first experience. And then I miscarried in between, going through that, and then having like another perfect angel, like, and just being like really trying to be the best mom that I could and not wanting to miss all the stuff as I was doing all the other things. I was devoted, like there was no time for me in that. So the person who, like the last person to eat was always me. And I knew everyone gives you the advice. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't, we all know it. Every single woman here that's listening knows it. But guess what? She's still the last to do it.
That's right. It's hard to implement.
It's hard. You're not going to, when the mask is going to fall, are you kidding me? Like the first thing I'm going to do is put it on my child.
I know, but you know what? Yeah. Someone on the podcast the other day, just literally, I literally just had a recording literally yesterday. And this woman said, put your oxygen mask on first. Put your oxygen mask on first. But
it's easy to say. It's easy to say. It's so easy to say. And so I just want to be honest about that. And that meant that I was the last for everything. So my health was like not at its best. Like I literally went in for blood work 2 years ago. And that's when I knew, like, and I knew I had to like quit my role as CEO. Like the moment that I knew I had to take this like huge best friend trip to Sedona, and like we did a bunch of stuff that we can't talk about here.
I did that too though. I did a trip to Sedona too.
It was amazing. It was so great. Yeah. It was so great. It was such a great best friend trip. And just reflected on all the stuff. And I'm like, I knew, I came back and I was like, I'm resigning and this is what this is going to look like. Started putting in all the transition plans. And I went in for the first time. I hadn't seen a doctor. The only doctor I ever saw was my OB. Like, because like I never went to go see a doctor besides going through pregnancy. And
That's interesting. That's interesting.
But it's real. It's real. And I know that many women listening are like, yep, that's me too. Yeah. Because we're the last. And my blood work, my cortisol levels, my just every single, I was like a walking amoeba. Like, I don't know, like it was really bad. Yeah. And like my age, like on like my biological age was like, I'm literally like a 57-year-old. Like,
no
man.
way.
Yes, it was so bad. So it had to change. And I kind of, and my, I lost my dad. He was at a very early age. We lost him during COVID and he was 57. And getting that, like, it didn't need to get that far, but it took a full 180. And I've really just prioritized taking care of myself and making sure that like I get the, like, I don't just have to eat whatever is like because it's quick and because of my kid, like the leftovers or whatever else. I'm prioritizing food. I'm prioritizing my mental health. I'm prioritizing movement, and I don't feel bad anymore for it. Yeah. And that shift took so long, and now I'm here and I never want to go back. I work out like 5 to 6 times a week.
Really?
Yes. And I don't do anything crazy. Like I do Pilates and yoga, and Pilates is so hard, but I love going to like, it's a routine that I've like now built. Yeah. And I focused on different things. Like I focused on strength versus cardio and like just everything. And when I focus on the right things,
I have so many questions for you.
It has changed, and I feel
this is
my
so hard
best
for me.
Again.
This is so hard to be on your podcast.
I know.
Just
let's
so
just
do
it. We'll just
this
keep
is
going.
So hard.
You can air this one too.
I have so many questions for you that I am holding back.
Podcast host of no, ask.
I mean, it's just so. No, I lost my mom, a couple years ago as well. So probably around the same time, and it's a transition that you go through on so many levels. So for you to also have a health transition and your father, which I'm so sorry for your loss, by the way. I know firsthand how that transition can be and what that feels like. And so that was a huge transition for me that redefined exactly how I moved forward as well. Like my whole life kind of has turned upside down in a way. And the way I move forward now is so different from how I was before. But yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, it all compounds on you. Women, and especially mothers, are the last ones to get anything for themselves. But I will also say this. I think when I do put myself first, it is when I am able to operate at my highest level.
I agree with that. Really I feel like my performance in everything is 10 times. It is 10 times better. It is the truth. You have to put the mask on first. My performance is at a different level. My happiness is at a different level. Even with my kids, I'm at a different level.
Yeah.
So it is just just do it. Just listen.
So that's the reminder. That's the reminder I think we have to give women. I think we have to remind them when you do it, although it is the most difficult thing to do, it is so hard to do it. But when I've seen friends, myself, period, other women, when you are able to put a little piece of yourself first, and even it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be the best friend's trip to Sedona all the time. It doesn't have to be all these like big grandiose things. It can be small moments throughout the day. But when you do it, you are going to operate at a higher level and a higher efficiency than ever before because you are going to be full. Your cup is going to be filled. And when your cup is filled, the whole house eats.
It is. And there's no guilt around it. So speaking of guilt, I'm going to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Tell me about mom guilt. And, I want to hear not just your perspective, but you've literally had an opportunity to interview the most, high achieving women that are also mothers.
Right.
How does mom guilt play out for mothers and most women? I can tell you about mine, but I'd love to hear about your perspective on mom guilt.
I think mom guilt is something that every mother who is pulled in many directions is going to feel at some point. They don't even have to be mothers in business. They can be mothers just living their lives because mothers are super busy regardless if you're a working mother or not.
Yeah.
You are going to experience some level of mom guilt. Even if you have multiple kids, your one kid is going to require more of you than maybe another kid at a certain time, which will create mom guilt. You are going to have some form of it. For me, for the women that I've seen, you almost have to put it in a different bucket. You have to say, have I created a situation in this house or in this child's life that is filled with love? Am I the only source of their love? And that if that's the case, you know what I mean? It's like that. So for me, with my children, I've created a space where they have love coming in from multiple places. Of course, I love my children the most, but they have a very supportive father. They have grandparents who are always like supportive and calling them and FaceTiming them, even though they live out of, the state. They have my girlfriends, some of my best friends who FaceTime them and call them all the time. So when my daughter comes in and she's like, I did so well in that basketball game, whoop, whoop, she calls them as well to tell them. Yeah. It is creating multiple places where they feel that community. Love. It is community. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like my way of combating mom guilt when I can't make it to a performance, like I have a trip coming up that I have to be in New York, and it's a big work trip that I can't miss. But at the same time, my daughter has a performance that she's really looking forward to, and she has a solo, So for me, I had a whole conversation with her. I was like, Nyla, I was like, Nyla, listen, I'm not going to be able to make it, but your dad will be there. He's going to record it for me. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to give you everything that I have. I'm going to let you know how I feel. It's going to be amazing no matter what it is. But what can we do afterwards that can give you that one-on-one time, me and you? It won't make up for it, but it'll be something different that we can share. It's just about creating other ways that they feel seen. And I think that's the way that I combat mom guilt.
I love it. It's such good advice. And it's also just taking the pressure off, right? Like you're allowed to, and the word and versus or, right? Like I can go to the trip and still be there for my daughter. Like it's not an or thing. Why do we feel like, why has it been such a choice?
Well, I think it's a choice because we're looked at as mothers, as nurturers, as their primary source of comfort and love, right? So for us, we feel that it impacts us quite a bit. But I'll be honest with you. I don't think my husband has dad guilt. I don't think that's anything that he experiences. He knows, like, all right, if I got to go work, okay, baby, I got to go to work, but I'll be back and we're going to talk all about it. I love you so much, more than anything. All right, I'll see you when I get back, okay? And it doesn't take away from his love, but he almost compartmentalizes. Whereas me, it jumps in and out. Like my compartmentalization is not as like clear as his is. And I think honestly, just as women, we put it also on ourselves. I think we allow ourselves to say, all right, we have to choose, or why is it a choice we have to make? And it's not. You're absolutely right. It's not. It's something we're allowed to say, okay, we're allowed to go do this for work because work makes me happy too. And then we're allowed to come home and be with you and celebrate your achievements because that makes me happy as well. But I think, more importantly now than ever, we are showing our kids that it's okay to be happy in multiple areas. Home isn't the only place where I'm happy. And I wasn't just a mother before you. I was many things before you, and I'll be many things after you leave the house and go off to college. Yeah. You are not the only thing that defines me. Right? I'm defined in many different areas. And I want you to see that as my child, whom I love very much, so you can go off and be many things and not just be defined in one way.
I love that. I resonate with that so much. I think I was telling you earlier that when I first was, showing up on social media, my handle was Mom Boss.
Yes.
And I was a new mom, and like your whole life is that. Like when you're a new mom, there is like a different new mom, like especially mom, like first time mother.
Yes.
Like everything is a new experience. Everything is just guarded and special and hard, and like it's just your
heightened.
Like everything is extreme. Like everything is that. So even in how I was showing up, like it was like all about like me being like a mom boss. And honestly, like after like 3 years, like, and then like Anna was born, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a lot more than just like a mom boss. Like I'm just a boss.
That's right.
Like I'm allowed to just be what I was before this baby came into my life. Right. And I changed my handle, and I did not feel that I wanted to have, I am a mother, but it does not define me as a person.
That's right. That's right.
And so it was this shift that like, but in the beginning, oh my God, it was everything. It was like just anything about this baby, that was it. Like,
I think that's the transition that a lot of new mothers go through.
Yeah.
It's this transition of finding, which is where the Cool Mom Co came from, right? Because for me personally, it was a huge transition as well. It took me a minute to find myself again, but for me, it took like 2 years, not 5.
Yeah.
It took 2 years, but that 2 years felt like forever.
It is forever. Well, this is like I cannot wait to come back on your show and like carry this conversation. This is why we do what we do as like podcast hosts. I think it is the best way to get to know people on just a heart to heart connection and just fill our cups. This fills my cup, and today you filled mine. And I know everyone listening has just absolutely been soaking every word in. How can we support you, Lizzy, and what's ahead for you? We've got the most incredible tribe of women, and it is a different kind of energy here at CEO School. It is truly like, it is so supportive. So make your asks because we are going to show up. So how can we support you?
Yeah. Well, if you resonate at all, definitely go listen to the Cool Mom Code podcast. It's anywhere you listen to podcasts. Check out the coolmom.co. It's just a full resource guide on everything lifestyle when it comes to just being a woman, but also where women and motherhood meets. And so from food and recipes to style, fashion, to any different topics that comes, just through the viewpoint of motherhood. I think it's a great source. And we celebrate all diversities. That was my biggest thing. I really wanted to create a platform that was diversity driven and all inclusive, because it wasn't anything else that I saw in the marketplace, and especially in the blog sphere.
Yes.
And so for me, that was important to create a website that really celebrated that, and also celebrated women where they are, meeting them where they are. are. And whether you are a full stay-at-home mom, whether you are a working mom, it is this space where you can really feel seen. And that was important for me. So definitely that. And then check out Honest Renovations. It's coming. Season 2 is coming soon, but catch up on all the episodes of season 1 on Roku.
I'm going to be binging it. And Lizzy, you're not just a regular mom. You're a cool mom.
You too.
Thank you so much for today's episode and giving us your time today. If you loved today's show, I know you did, screenshot this, tag us on social. Lizzy's on social. I'm on social. We'll be sharing all of the behind the scenes on social as well. So screenshot it. Let us know what was like your biggest takeaways, something that you really resonated with, and also help us grow the show. Leave us a review if you loved it. That's exactly how we grow. Share it with your friends. I cannot wait to see you on another incredible episode for CEO School. Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you loved it, leave us a review. We are so proud to bring you authentic conversations, game changer expert guests, and valuable content on and offline. The best compliment you can give us is by screenshotting today's show and tagging us on Instagram at CEO School and at Suneera Madani. We are obsessed with swag, so don't be surprised if we want to send you some. Thanks for tuning into class today, and remember, nothing bad happens when women make more money.